Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. This is about Windows 11 that came out, the information, and then the furore that followed in the last couple of weeks. This one is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and maybe a tip or two along the way that might help you, no matter who you are. And this is just what I know and my opinion. I would have put the background information in here, but I'll put it in the description. You can read about that. But I've had a PC since Windows 98. Until Windows 10, all of them except for Vista, but that will be in the description. So let's go ahead with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This should help you no matter who you are. So let's get with the good. So I would consider this one as a tip, actually, which you could consider if you want. This is what I do anyway. So when I bought this gaming PC, which I'll be uploading this video on, in June 2015, that's 6 years ago now, I wanted to future-proof it. I always plan ahead. So when you go to buy a new PC or a laptop or a phone or whatever, you probably count the cost, the components, particularly with a desktop, the fixing, warranty, return to base. But most importantly of all, this is the tip and trick that I do, at least for me, is I consider how long I want it to last. What can I, how many years do I want this to last? The return to base and the fixing and changes in components I might have to update and so on. Now I wanted it to last at least 2020, 2021 and preferably longer than that. And lo and behold, looks what's happened exactly 6 years later. Windows 11 has been announced. And if you look at the specs, I should put them up here, of my system components, I've got an i7 and from 2015, and it's just 1 or 2 years too early. It does have a TPM module on the motherboard, but again, that's only 1.2. And if you can see, the UEFI, it was actually on legacy, but that's another, I'll get to that tip in a minute. So I actually changed that one myself. So for this one, go into your system, check your components, and have a goal like this, no matter, for the next PC or any others in the future, because then it will give you an idea of how long you want it to last. It may break down in the meantime or you have to replace components, but that's another story. Now getting back to the UEFI, I had to change mine from legacy in the BIOS. Now I had to sit down and think about it as being intermediate with PCs, and looking how to do that took me 90 minutes, an hour and a half, researching it and changing it. And I need to do that just to see if I could secure boot it. I knew I had a TPM 1.2, but I wanted to see it anyway and see what differences it would make. And you might be able to do that if yours is on legacy, because you might need the UEFI. So if you do have a TPM 2.0 to get it to work, because you'll need the secure boot. So that's another good thing that might help you if you're a bit stuck on this problem and you do have a newer PC. Now the next good point I would say here is Windows is hardware security conscious. That's the whole point. It actually is a hardware thing, not software. And this is not a bad thing. This is actually good. It's even a natural progression. And it's perhaps something that should have been done long ago, perhaps, as it will prevent hacking and so on. The next good point I would have to say on this one is if you have room and you have to replace a PC, in my case it will be a desktop, even if it's a laptop, you can then use, say, a Linux on this machine when you buy a new one. This will give you a secondary PC, a learning curve in learning a new operating system, and that's exactly what I will be doing with this PC that I use for gaming, editing, and uploading this video. When I get a new PC, because I'm going to have to get one, this one I'm going to try Linux and have that as a backup to connect to in case that PC breaks down. I'll have that as a backup. The next good point I would say is that more changes could happen. If, for example, the requirements might drop a little. So for some, we have to be careful here because it will only be for some. As CPUs are coming, what they might allow. So it doesn't mean that everyone is going to suddenly get, unless they do a big change to say 1.2 and people can get the modules. So there might be a few more people that will be able to run Windows 11 if you're lucky, and that should be a good thing. The next point would be you still have to upgrade Windows 10, which will, if it's not with a new PC, you're safe until the 14th of October 2025. If you're running Windows 8.1, that runs out in just 18 months time, in January 2023. Now, you can still upgrade to Windows 10. It's still available there. I, in fact, upgraded to Windows 10 just a year ago. about March 2020. It was supposed to be ended 4 years earlier, but it was online and I upgraded and I'm running Windows 10 at the moment. And that's not a bad thing. If you can wait and you don't want to rush into Windows 11 and you've got Windows 10 or you want to upgrade it to Windows 10, this will buy you another over 4 years from the date of this post. So that's not a bad thing either. Now, if you're in no rush, that's perfectly fine. And also that will mean that your specs, if you get a newer PC later down the line, let's say 1, 2, 3 years, the specs will be higher, may even be cheaper than what they are today. So that's the next good thing. Now let's look at the bad. Sadly, as you can see here, my CPU is only 4th generation and the TPM is 1.2. And the figures globally are not good either. Out of all the PCs, 1.2 to 1.3 billion, this is billion, of which 800 million are said to be not able to run Windows 11. So I, and perhaps you, are not alone in this, with 800 million other PCs unable to run Windows 11. This means that millions of people will need to buy a new PC or laptop, all the components, if they want to try and fix something. If that's possible, like change the whole motherboard, but that's even another big headache. Not to mention the environmental impact. Imagine if we were, in the space of a month or two, 800 million PCs being dumped for recycling, or just dumped across the world. That's not good. The next bad point is, if you really want Windows 11 now, because you don't want to wait, is you are going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay for something, and at the moment there's the chip and the CPU crisis and so on, so prices could be a little bit higher, but people will maybe rushing to buy it. This should start getting easier in the last quarter of this year, but it could go into 2022. But if you want Windows 11 straight away and take advantage of any new features, including security as well as gaming, apparently Windows 11 is better for gaming, then you're going to have to fork out sooner rather than later. The other bad thing is operating systems are always changing and improved. This is nothing new here. It's just a very sneaky way Microsoft seems to have gone about it, by literally announcing it suddenly, and then the furore that's happened with all the problems since. Now let's look at the ugly side of things. So this first point is, did you get called out by Microsoft saying Windows 10 will be forever? You won't have to do anything more, no more upgrades, no more new operating systems. And then suddenly they announced, literally a few weeks ago, Windows 11 is going to be here, and look how much better it is for you. I was sort of a bit different in that sense that I went, so when they announced that sort of thing a couple of years ago, Windows 10 won't need any more upgrades or no more new Windows operating system, I said, was this too good to be true? And then I just thought nothing of it after that, really, not much. And then lo and behold, look what's happened this year. So again, they will make money out of it with so many people being stuck. So again, another ugly sort of part of it. Also, they did themselves no favours with the messy removing of items as quickly as people were reviewing it. People were actually reviewing the pages and they were changing it as they were reviewing it. For example, it said TPM 1.2 and TPM 2.0 supported, and as one person was reviewing it, they had removed that just to 2.0. So not a good sign either. This also does mean, the ugly side, that people will be buying a whole lot of new PCs and laptops, etc. in the near and distant future, which some have even speculated is a cynical ploy by Microsoft to make money, whether directly or indirectly. Let's hope not, but to be honest, they are going to be making money, because if people want Windows 11 on their new PCs and laptops, what's going to happen? Microsoft will get their share of that. So another ugly part of it. And I'll just leave you with one final thought, and perhaps the ugly truth of it all. It is coming, whether you or I like it or not. You have alternatives from Linux or waiting and so on, or you can purchase a new PC, but the day is coming, and all Microsoft Windows have an end of shelf life, don't they? So basically, that's it. Keep your comments civil and on topic, and anything else you know or you think I've missed out or not mentioned, and that's it.